Hey, good morning. Meteorologist Scott Puglia here with your Tropics Outlook and discussion for August 26th, 2021. Lots to break down this morning with regards to the tropics as we continue to track Invest 99L in the western part of the Caribbean Sea. And unfortunately, the growing potential for tropical trouble and potentially significant impacts along the north central Gulf Coast as we head towards late weekend and early next week from this system. So we're going to take about the next 10 to 15 minutes or so and break down the latest with regards to this system, the potential track, and also the potential strength that this system could have as it moves into the Gulf of Mexico as we head towards this weekend. And all eyes on the northwest Gulf Coast should start those preparations as we head throughout the day today. And we'll show you those details on exactly where locations are most at risk for potential impacts from this system as we head into the weekend, and especially late weekend and early next week. So here's a look this morning at the visible satellite animation as the sun starts to come up over the west central parts of the Caribbean Sea. And there's definitely been some structural changes with this system over the past 24 hours or so. And what I mean by that is that the past couple of days, as we were talking about the evolution of this system, we mentioned the term wind shear. And the wind shear was high over this tropical wave, meaning that it was really struggling to organize and it really wasn't showing much in the way of a structure. However, over the past essentially 24 to 36 hours or so, we've started to see wind shear lower over this tropical disturbance over the central part of the Caribbean Sea, and that has led to the system becoming more organized overnight last night. And it wouldn't surprise me that as we head through the day today, possibly by the 10 a.m. or even the 1 p.m. advisory from the National Hurricane Center later today, that we see this get classified as a tropical depression or tropical storm. So again, this morning, you can see that center of circulation setting up a couple hundred miles towards the south of Jamaica. Big blowup of storms, and overall, you can see some convective banding starting to develop on the north and also even northwest side. There's still some pretty dry air on the western side of the circulation, so for this to be organizing at the rate that it is, not at a rapid fashion by any means, but slow and steady organization with lowering wind shear and a lot of warm water ahead of it, tells you that this is likely going to become our next named storm, and the next named storm on the list is Ida. Looking at the upper level wind pattern this morning, there are some things to take away from this. The past couple of days, we've been looking at an upper level low off towards the north and east of this system, kind of helping to usher in some of that wind shear that I kind of alluded to at the top of this video. And unfortunately, that upper level low that's been in place north and west of the system, located kind of over the Bahamas region this morning, that's starting to back away and weaken towards the west-northwest. What that tells me is that the environment ahead of this system, you see these very sharp winds here in the cirrus cloud deck ahead of our developing tropical storm. Those winds are starting to lower a little bit over the center of this system that is developing south of Jamaica. So as wind shear starts to lower and this upper level low starts to back away from the system, the environment as a whole is becoming more favorable for organization. And if we look at this map this morning, I downloaded this specific map from a really great website that I love using for tropical analysis. This is from the SIMS website, and you can see it here at the top of your screen, tropic.ssec.wisc. A lot of letters at one time, but you can take a snapshot on your computer and use this link at your home as well if you want to. But the takeaway from this graphic is this, and I'll outline this for you because sometimes it can be kind of difficult to see on the screen, but here's the Gulf of Mexico, and let's draw this again. Here's the Gulf of Mexico that I've got labeled here in pink. In the Gulf of Mexico, you see a lot of green. On this particular analysis, that is analyzing the wind shear that is present in the Gulf of Mexico, and you're seeing 5 knots, 10 knots. That's low wind shear. So as our tropical disturbance, likely to soon become Tropical Storm Ida, moves towards the western tip of Cuba and into the Gulf of Mexico, it looks to find a very favorable environment for strengthening. And our forecast model guidance has really come to that conclusion over the past 24 to 36 hours that this is going to have a window from Friday night to essentially Sunday morning for a stint of intensification and potentially quite quick strengthening and intensification over parts of the west central Gulf of Mexico. So that's a lot about the setup. Let's talk about kind of the evolution of things and talk about the timing and also about some of the details with regards to impacts that could be felt for areas along the northwest Gulf Coast. And of course, the most important thing about where do we expect this to go. So let me clear off this map here. I was doing some drawing on this earlier, and we'll clear this off for you. And let's see, right here, boom. All right, so this is a look at the latest GFS forecast model. This is the 06Z data run from earlier this morning. And I want to show you some things. The past couple of days, we've talked a lot about the strength of the high pressure system over the eastern seaboard. That high pressure system is still there, right? High pressure over the eastern seaboard. And with clockwise flow around that upper level high, our system is being steered on a generally northwest fashion towards the Yucatan Channel and the western tip of Cuba. That's kind of the general consensus here over the next 24 hours or so, is gradual intensification into a tropical storm as this approaches the Isle of Youth and over towards the western tip of Cuba on the GFS forecast model, steered by that large ridge of high pressure that is anchored over parts of the Carolinas and towards the mid-Atlantic. Then as we go into Saturday, let's fast forward this model, and I'll clear this off for you again, and we'll go click this through here. As we go towards Saturday morning, the ridge of high pressure starts to strengthen just a tad. You can see these deeper shadings of red here outlined over the Carolinas and Virginia. That continues to steer our system on a northwest pattern with its sights set somewhere between the upper Texas coastline, Louisiana, and even as far east as Mississippi and Alabama. This is the region now that forecast model guidance has become much, much tightly clustered on for significant impacts possible. Now, exactly where within that region? That's a pretty large span, a pretty large plot of areas of possible impact, right? And I think a lot of folks that are probably watching on both YouTube and on Instagram as well are wondering is, okay, well, what do we think is going to happen? What are kind of the pivotal keys here of where this tracks? There's two factors, and the first of that is going to be determined today, and that is where the center of circulation starts to develop. If we see this develop a little bit further north, that could take this track more towards southeast Louisiana and maybe bring some significant impacts to parts of South Mississippi and South Alabama. That is certainly possible. Situation number two, though, if you will, is if this forms a little bit further south, closer towards Grand Cayman, and this kind of splits the crosshairs of the Yucatan Channel, that could allow for a more northwesterly track towards possibly the upper southeast Texas coastline, Acadiana, towards Lafayette, Lake Charles, or even Morgan City. So again, this is still kind of in the incipient stages. Where it develops today, where that center of circulation develops, could play a big role in the eventual landfall location of this system sometime on Sunday. Now, I will tell you that what is somewhat alarming, I guess, if you will, about the situation at hand is that there isn't a whole lot of time for preparations to be done because, again, today's Thursday, so we're looking at all day Thursday, Friday, and Saturday for preparations. 72 hours of preparation time. But in terms of tropical forecasting, 72 hours to prepare for a landfalling hurricane is not the most time. So I encourage you that if you're watching today and you live along the upper southeast Texas coastline all the way to Mobile and Pensacola, to keep a close eye on this and start those simple preparations, making sure that you've got all the essentials with regards to non-perishable foods, your batteries, your phone battery packs are charged up, you've trimmed those tree branches close to your home, those kinds of things. I think today is the day that those preparations should start to become more in order. Looking at this forecast model, this is again the GFS forecast model at 06Z. This shows a landfall of the storm close towards southeast Louisiana sometime on Sunday morning. Now, if we look at the forecast model guidance, I pulled up all of this data for you. This is a look at the O6Z ensemble model guidance from the GFS forecast model. And if you look at this, and I know we've got some folks watching on Instagram Live as well, and I'm sure you've got some questions. Well, which one of these models will be correct? Well, this is a suite of forecast model guidance that shows kind of all of the potential outcomes with this system. And you'll notice that overnight we've had a stark change in the forecast model guidance from 48 hours ago. 48 hours ago, many of these models were centered over Texas and Mexico, but as we've gone through time, we've seen this system get better analyzed by our forecast models, showing that the center has formed a little bit further north, as we talked about in detail yesterday, closer to Jamaica, and that plays a role in more of these tracks pointing towards significant impacts in the state of Louisiana. And it's truly, not an ideal situation with regards to this, because if you look at it, notice all of these lines kind of turning red as they get closer towards the coast. That indicates a system that is steadily, if not quite quickly, intensifying upon its approach to the west central part of Gulf of Mexico and the west central Gulf Coast as we go towards Saturday and into Sunday. So, questions at hand. Where do we think this is going to go? Kind of touched on that, right? Anywhere from the upper southeast Texas coast all the way to the Florida Panhandle should be prepared for possible impacts. Right now, the center of our guidance points towards a landfall near Morgan City, Louisiana, but impacts are going to extend far out and away from that center, especially on the eastern side. And with that in mind, this is also expected to be a formidable system. We're not just talking about a rainmaker here. Heavy rain is going to be a big threat with this, but this is going to be a multifaceted storm that is going to be a bona fide hurricane, more than likely. Now, of course, it could debunk some of the forecast model guidance, but based on the low wind shear, very moist environment, and very warm water temperatures, this does have my attention for potentially significant impacts and the possibility that we could be dealing with a stronger hurricane along the northern Gulf Coast in just about 72 hours from now. Looking at our guidance this morning, I did want to show you this. This is the latest guidance, kind of the suite of all of our forecast models, and the mean this morning in terms of the average, if you will, of intensity forecast, right? What do most of the models show? Most of the models show this becoming a stronger Category 1 hurricane at landfall. I always, though, preach this when talking about tropical forecasting. We've come a long way in the past decade or so with regards to tropical forecasting. The one thing that our models really struggle with, though, is intensity. And given the environment that we've got ahead of this system, I would venture to be on the stronger envelope of the guidance. And what I mean by that is that though the mean is showing a strong Category 1, potentially a Category 2, I always say prepare for a category above or below of what the guidance is showing. So if it's showing the mean of a strong Category 1 to a Category 2, prepare that could be a strong Category 2 or a Category 3. Now, of course, looking at the category number doesn't tell you the exact impacts that you're going to receive, but it gives you an idea of that range, right, of what to prepare for, both up or down. Even a strong tropical storm or Category 1 can cause big impacts in terms of flooding, rain, storm surge, and gusty winds and power outages. But if it was on the upper echelon of that scale, that would have more significant impacts, and I want you to be prepared for that if that is indeed the case that does play out with this. So some takeaway points before I let you guys go is that, again, these details will continue to become more fine-tuned as we go throughout the day today. Hurricane hunters are scheduled to investigate the system as we head towards the afternoon, and I wouldn't be surprised to see our latest forecast track issued from the National Hurricane Center later today. And takeaway points before I let you guys go is this. High likelihood of a Gulf system, details on the strength and the path Still a little bit fuzzy, but again, environment is right for intensification within the Gulf of Mexico, and because of that, I want everyone to be prepared for impacts starting as early as Saturday night along the coastline. And folks from upper southeast Texas to Alabama and the Florida Panhandle should have those hurricane preparation plans ready to go in case Ida, or soon-to-be Ida, decides to pay a visit. I'm going to have a lot more updates coming up on Instagram, Facebook, YouTube, and probably going to do a Facebook Live, extended Facebook Live later today. So make sure to subscribe to my YouTube channel for the latest information, and I'll have more updates to come over the next couple of days as we continue to track this evolving situation with regards to the tropics. Have a great rest of your Thursday, y'all, and I'll talk to you soon.